Welcome on to this blab. I am your host with my co-host. I'm Latanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Passion. And so today we're going to talk about consciously honoring Prince with my co-host here, Coach K. Khayr Love. Khayr, known by many names, Coach K. He is a master astrologist. Yes. If I leave anything out, just jump right on in there. He is also a master instructor, Tai Chi instructor, Tantra instructor. I mean, the list goes on. But we're not necessarily operating in that office, but it all works together because it is spirituality, enlightenment. It is ascended processes, all of it. And so tonight we're gonna talk. Khayr did a Facebook Live, a really quick Facebook Live and Periscope about how we're responding to the news of Prince's transition.
And this transition, I think, needs to be explored a little bit more holistically. And Latanya said, hey, let's do a blab. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a blab. So we're going to have fun tonight. I'm ready. I'm really excited that she invited me. And I just think it's going to be one good time. And you're going to see some things from different perspectives. Okay? So stay tuned. If you want to pull out your pad or your pen, if you want to share this on your Facebook, if you want to tweet about this, if you want to jump in the seat later on, all of that is good. Another thing that Latanya left out is I'm a marvelous co-host.
You are a marvelous co-host because I don't know what the hell just happened.
I'm a marvelous co-pilot, you know what I'm saying? So we're not going to crash and burn around here, with Latanya showing off all her books and things behind her. And her sexy Prince red Corvette glasses, in honor of champion. Yeah, so how you want to get started tonight?
Well, let's talk about social media because literally I was doing some work, right? In another window, I switch over and I see somebody had made their cover Prince. I know when people do that, something's happened. And I was like, oh my, what's happened? And all I had to do was scroll, and it has been a continuous feed ever since. And, when I see these things, any event, tragedy or otherwise, any mainstream news, it's just so interesting, such a social engineering project to me, at how we kick right into changing profile pictures, post, like almost within 5 minutes of getting the news. It's like it doesn't take us that long to respond to whatever the impetus is given to us before we even check. First of all, fact check. Second of all, we just go right into groupthink. Now I understand honoring him, but that always I just can't join in, Khayr.
Even before, first off, I agree. I can't join in like that. But I do want to address the whole thing about social media and consciousness, because as you're talking, I'm just like, thoughts are coming down, and it is so funny that we celebrate death so fast on social media. No matter who it is, then we celebrate life. Okay. Some babies were born, and what type of death? Mm-hmm. What is the reason? And like all the way back from January, I've been talking about this whole wall of suffering. Prince never made any music that had anything to do with suffering. It was always overcoming and love music and feel good music. But it's like everybody's talking about how sad they are. And the whole thing is because all people, what the majority, I would say like 98%, have no idea what to do with death.
Hmm.
Social media is a social experiment. And as I look at the social media experiment, it gives me more evidence that people are just confused. Because if I knew what was going to happen after death and I saw somebody die, I wouldn't mourn for that person. Especially if I knew they had their stuff in order. Like, okay, like we know that Prince's 401k is good. We know that he won't be buried on credit. His funeral or whatever, all those expenses will be taken care of. Nobody will be foreclosing on the house. You know, Paisley Park is going to be much like Elvis's spot or Michael Jackson's spot. You know, they're going to be tours there in the next 2 or 3 years. He's going to make a lot of money. The physical side, I'm very clear on that. But a lot of people don't know what happens the first 5 minutes after you die. And that's where we get fear from, is the unknown. We get influenced by the unknown. What about the first hour? What about the first day? And we are now, because there's so much awakening of the masses, we are starting to leave our religious indoctrination of I just go to heaven,
right,
or I just go to hell. And right now, people are stuck in limbo about, I don't know what to believe, and I'm afraid. I don't know what to do after death. You know, I'm
right,
confused. And then my conversation, because that's one of my subjects. I love astrology, but guess what? I love studying transitions, and I love studying fears of people, the history of fears. So one big trigger of fear is death. But then when you can't study death without studying immortals. So there's life, death, and immortals. What about these people that don't die? You understand? What do they bring to the table, and what can you learn from an immortal? Well, this immortal, what was the difference between me and him? If we were born through a mother's womb, we stay on earth. We both need oxygen. We still sustain our water. It boils down to the immortal realizes that death is an option. Death is an option, not a I have to die. So that was where I was coming at it from consciously, to ask people, like, where are you really coming from when you are posting all this stuff about Prince? And because one thing will really reveal what you really feel about something. Let's say somebody's mourning they don't like something about themselves, and they always make fat jokes. But inside, they're really hurting about being fat, but they cover it up with comedy. I'm sure, being the master coach that you are, you have seen people covering up pains with even consciousness. Some people have, you know, they act like they're so conscious that they cover up things that they lack in value in themselves. What do you feel about it?
Well, let's do this, because we jumped in because you've already been teaching. So let's define consciousness for everybody that's listening, because people use that word, and you know that falls in a lot of genres of knowledge and wisdom. So you have light workers who feel that they are conscious. You have revolutionaries who use the word conscious. You have Pan-Africanists who use the word conscious. You have occultists who use the word consciousness. So how are we using consciousness today? Consciously honoring Prince? Because, you know, we're touching on a lot of nerves.
Conscious is God awareness. Consciousness is God awareness in all things. God is always in action. So to observe God in this phone, in this organite pendant, you know what I'm saying, in my locks, in death, consciousness is God awareness. So to me, there is black consciousness is pseudo. It's not real. White consciousness or whatever is everything comes out of source. So you can call it God consciousness. I call it God consciousness, source consciousness, universe consciousness. But when you gotta narrow it down to one thing, feminine conscious, man conscious, you ain't got it yet. You ain't got it yet. Because
I like how you explain a couple of things, because I believe that there are levels to consciousness. I believe that there are levels to awakening. And because you may go from your religious understanding of whatever consciousness that is to spiritual, and then from spiritual to maybe another level of understanding. Even in your spirituality, there's levels. Then there's awakenings inside of that to that cosmic consciousness. And what Kair went right into is, in my opinion, is the cosmic, beyond, the cosmos consciousness that, to honor. And they all have some merit, but it's so interesting when what happens to our consciousness when events like this happens. Now, some new agers go numb. They get quiet. Whenever there's a tragedy, whenever there's something that happens, a lot of new age folks get quiet. They don't touch it. It's just love and light. Now, a lot of conspiracy theorists, their consciousness is conspiracy. And so many of them are posting as well. They're asking legitimate questions. We should be aware before we go into mourning and sadness, because now your energy is being directed towards mourning and sadness, and that's intentional, right?
Yes. You so much in the sweet spot right now. Before I can answer the last question, I got to back up just a half a second to levels. I got to go to levels because you.
Yeah. Sure thing.
I'm gonna come back to conspiracy theories because I'm a retired former Hall of Fame conspiracy theorist. Former.
I gotta take my glasses off. Did you just say
former?
Retired.
Retired.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
That's that thing. Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. I was trained by Steve Coakley. Now, I ain't talking about through YouTube. I'm talking about he used to come to North Carolina A&T every year. Okay, every 6 months he was over there again hanging out. So I'm in the Steve Coakley like crew. All right, so I'm a Hall of Famer. Trust me, Boo laid out, Illuminati, Rothschilds, but I'm former. I X'd it out because that was at the level I was at. So when we talk about levels, when you see something tragic like this, you will see people's levels identified. See, my level, I did my video, and we're doing this video because I'm identifying what level I'm on. And it's not, and level equals where I'm at on the path. It doesn't mean I'm higher than somebody.
Right, correct.
I'm further along on the path because everything I see that the conspiracy theorists are writing, I nod, I shake my head. I nod my head. I'm like, okay, but I don't bug out. You see what I'm saying? And be like, oh yeah, because I'm at the level now of reality. See, I'm a realitist, and I wasn't there. And the privacy that Prince always shown, all the conspiracy theorists, none of them were at his house because everybody was posting whatever their conspiracy theorist is. You can go back to their page and see they're in Texas or Florida or whatever. Don't nobody stay. There aren't many conspiracy theorists in Minneapolis. And the only thing we all can agree on is he was at the crib. Okay. Now, in my heart, my hope and prayer is tomorrow it comes up and it's a hoax. And I got y'all. That's what I really want. I don't really feel like giving all of my energy in a downward direction to death. Even if he is deaf, my energy is never going to go that way again because I have been educated on what happens. Like at the beginning of this show, your reception went out. I am educated on what to do as a co-host, so I didn't panic. When you see death, a lot of people panic. You know what I'm saying? And it's based off of, just like in a fight, you're going to react based on your training. So when I used to, before I learned Tai Chi and I used to get robbed because I was in the drug game and I was doing stuff I had no business doing, this is how I reacted. And I couldn't do anything from here except just be like, yo, don't shoot. Don't shoot. I tell them where it was at, whatever they was looking for, I give it to them. You see what I'm saying? Now this is an offensive position. I'm about to take your gun from you. I have a different training with the same motion. So I'm not new agey and I say love and light, but it's just because I'm reacting from a different space. I'm at a different place in my journey that I remember I was conscious when my father died. When my father died in 2002, when I went to the funeral, I broke down like
Right.
it was, but it wasn't necessarily, and everybody in the church thought it was because, what I'm saying, because I miss him so much or whatever, I won't see him again. I'm the one that ordered the closed casket ceremony as an Egyptian ritual. That was me. But I didn't get up there and do a conscious spiel about in the land of Kemet and this is how the pharaohs were buried. And the first thing I said was, my mama married a champion. That was the first thing I said when I stood up to talk about my father. I said my mother married a champion. So but I'm even at a different level than I was 13 years ago.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And so I wanted to talk about it and talk about it with you so we could give people who are awakening, for people who are on an enlightened path, an enlightened perspective, on a really conscious, a colorless conscious perspective, another way to look at this. This conversation may go into like what is death, how to look at it, what happens, and so on and so forth. And definitely, I'm sure both of us will be giving out tools. So that's my piece on the levels, right? And I do want to hit some of the conspiracy theories too, because just like some of the other greats, he did die at home after he owned all his masters.
Yeah, I mean that's notable, and it's a pause. But it's notable so that we don't go down the road of, okay, yeah, we're gonna mourn him, but not ask any questions. This is an election year, and people continue to vote with, okay, all right. So you're voting for candidates, but you are always voting for other things with your emotional energy, with your investment in it. And so when the people begin to wake up, they can't have your vote because you got to be able to follow the money. He owned his masters, and that's an accident. It should be a question, is all I'm saying. It should be a question in the minds of people who are, whatever level you're on, conscious, because somebody needs to start asking these questions, in my humble opinion.
Because I mean to cut you, but in our humble opinion, we just can't swallow the flu. Me and LaTanya can't swallow the flu. I'm sorry, because it's too much evidence. LaTanya, let me ask you your opinion. With Prince's budget, what kind of food was he eating?
Well, from what I understand, Prince was extreme vegan and has been for years before it became a fad.
Before we even say it was vegan or it was meat or it was symptometry, was he eating good or eating garbage?
He was eating extremely well.
He was eating extremely well, right?
And he was physically fit.
One more time.
He was eating well and he was physically fit. So a flu is not acceptable. And certain things should not just be acceptable no matter what our walk is. But what do we do when it's not acceptable? Because there's been a lot going on. And first of all, I got to deal with the numbers a little bit. This is a 9 vibration year. This is a quantum leap year. So it means that things are happening at a very rapid pace. So we saw when we came into the year 2016, a lot of people checking out, significant people. If you notice, there was death after death after death. In order for there to be rebirth, there has to be death. But this is a very significant year that this is even happening. And so this 9 vibrational year and this lineup that we have with these 5 planets, like, whoa, nothing is an accident.
Nothing is an accident. And to quote the great Hove, Jay-Z, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So that's just the facts, okay? It's a fact that you have to look at symbols and symbology. Prince had on if you look on my Facebook page, I got a pair of glasses, a pair of shades where he got another shade right here. Who wears shades that's got 3 lenses on it, and one of them just so happened to be right here? That means I got to cover my third eye. We do things symbolically that you ain't even got to like mention. If you see this Canadian flag behind me, that means I've been to Canada. But it's a story that is symbolic for there's still prejudice in the world, because I got to the airport and them jokers sent me back. You understand? Because I had a felony good God, damn near 20 years ago. They still prejudice against me, and I ain't done nothing in 10 years. But these jokers was like, no, go back. So when you see people who are strong, Prince was very strong into symbols, and it wasn't a coincidence that he was into symbols that also were used in the occult practice.
Correct.
So how can I say that none of that matters? He just died from the flu. He just caught an emergency flight, went to the hospital, and then got the flu. Now, of course, somebody said he had epilepsy. I don't know. But we do know he was very secretive. We know Prince was very secretive, and Prince understood the game, because he was like a cat from the streets. So he didn't just let everybody into his business. You understood? Somebody who goes after owning my own masters knows he's got to make chess moves. And he can't let his opponent know what he's trying to do. And
let's give some context real quick on owning the masters and not letting. Some of you may not have known, but Michael Jackson is the reference point of that we're talking about. He not only owned his masters, but he owned the masters of, I believe, Beyonce. Like the library is like 50, right? It's like 50 major artists.
No. It's 50% of who is on Sony. It's not 50.
50%. 50%
the artists. Yes.
Of who's on Sony. Yeah, so I like how in Rakim Seku's article he asked, so, and who with no children, where does this go? Who now benefits? These are legitimate questions. But I also like when the brother said, those of us who are quote unquote conscious of ancestors, rather than joining in mourning, we need to be ritualing. And you say this all the time, Kair. You talk about when we see these things, when a part of our awakening, if don't go into feeling disempowered, or passive, whereas, well, we just have to accept it. No, you can go summon forces. But okay, that's the dark goddess stuff coming out right now.
That ain't even dark goddess. I can't even say that's to me. That's just God. That's just goddess that I want to summon forces. If I summon the Archangel Michael, who only does good, is that dark magic? No.
Well, okay. Well, see, you may have a context of dark, meaning evil, meaning not good. Dark magic, occult, means that it's done in often it's done in privacy, much like Prince was. And also for melanated people, it also has a relevancy there. So we can't take the culture's definition of dark to mean bad.
Exactly. But I just say magic because there's more people who do relate dark with bad than they do. Like you had to explain it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. And I know there are people watching, who don't have that context. So we have to explain a lot of things that we're saying because, I'm a Gemini, so I'll jump right in at the top and forget to make sure that I come down to the ground level. Not saying I'm better or more knowledgeable. That's not even where I'm coming from. I do want to say something from a real practical turning point about death for me. My master teacher, Ron Davis, peace and blessings upon him. He taught me with his own light. A lot of people, I've only talked about this a couple times publicly, but I remember having a conversation with him and he told me, I am complete. And I said, What do you mean? What are you saying? And I am conscious. I'm metaphysical. I'm trained. I'm ordained. All of that at this time. But I didn't understand this level of handling death. But this was my lesson. And I said, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Why would you say something like that? You have children and that's selfish. And he said, I have already visualized my children, my mother, everybody that means something to me, making their transition. He said, so I've already experienced it and I'm okay with it. He said, but I'm complete. He said, and I know that I have my children to the point that if I go, that they will be okay. Now he often taught me principles that it still years later that I'm learning. When I first heard it, I resisted. I resisted, like, oh my God, he's on some other ish and all of that. And you talked a little bit about this today when you talk about choosing. So I understand choosing because later on, maybe a year later, my brother made his transition. At that time, I felt emotion, but I wasn't emotional because I know that he chose. He chose out. That was phenomenal. It was surreal because it was like he prepared me, and I know he had conversations similar with others, like he prepared us. And that's forever shifted how I saw death. Now, mind you, my father also died. I don't know if it was before then. So that was a real hard one for me to digest because, you know, it was the first time for me to experience it that way, conscious and metaphysical as I was. But do we really think he chose it though, Khayr? I gotta ask that question.
Oh, see, here's where my conflict comes in. He had to be studying immortality. I know he was studying immortality. I'm absolutely sure. So to think that he would be cool with death, because some people understand that death, like you said, my grandmaster Sunyata Saraswati taught me with his life and taught me with his death and taught me after his death. You understand? Because I got a medium who I can say, ring him up on the phone and we can talk.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
So really, if I want to get nasty, I can go call Arletta and be like, Arletta, call Prince for me. Because it's so much easier for me to access him now. You understand? However, I'm not thinking at 57 years old, where he's actively on Twitter saying how much I love y'all. I'm getting ready in the middle of a tour. Not that he needs the money, but I'm getting, I'm just going to all of a sudden just pick right here before this full moon to die. Because if he's a real occultist and he want to go out pop locking and dropping, because I know he got an astrologer too, a mean one, and numerology, he gonna pick that Scorpio full moon that is not until tomorrow. You understand?
Right.
He's gonna be tactile because he's a Gemini. He's intelligent. He's a day before Kanye West. He's in your same sign with LaTanya and Maxwell Narty, three of the illest Geminis I know, and Minister Jew from myastrologycoach.com. Just a banger. So he's not gonna miscalculate like that. He's not gonna misfire like that to be like, oh,
if he chose.
Because that's people's excuses to say he chose death because they know nothing about death and they are afraid of the things that they know nothing about, and they don't think about who can I go to. I think that this is an excellent opportunity to open up conversations about death and what happens after death, so we won't keep fearing death. I'm going to not petition because I can't push around my master teacher, but I'm going to ask him, can he speak on this topic? You know what I'm saying? In some of his upcoming broadcasts about death, because here's the crazy part. Every time he has a workshop, I'm talking about Mitchell Gibson, it sells out. You know, I tell you this, it sells out all the time. And he normally does 250 seats. In New Orleans, he only had 150 seats and only 90 people came. In 4 years, I've never seen, that's the only time I've ever seen some empty seats, ever. And it was in the summertime. You know what I'm saying? And so, but he explained that some people, as metaphysically or as conscious as they want to be, they still have this fear about death, and they're very comfortable with how they feel about death. I'm also, because I've been educated, I'm very comfortable about how I feel, but I'm also very comfortable about being an immortal. Did you know it's like 10,000 immortals born every year? Just think for 1 second. There's 10,000 people born with an immortal gene inside of them every year. It's up to you to develop the gene, just like being born with certain recessive diseases in the body. And then if you create the right conditions, that disease comes out. If you create the right conditions, your immortal gene can develop too. So you don't have to continually work on your death gene. You can stop working on your death gene, and things that I don't give attention to tend to disappear. You understand?
Correct.
Now,
yes, and another teacher of that same caliber teaches about this immortality, and that's definitely Seven Bromar of the Resistance and the University as well. He teaches on this, and it, you know, so they are definitely if you want to know more, they are definitely master teachers who are telling you, and I like how Seven calls it an activation. And I think a lot of the work that we do is activating work that we active, because to go right into conversations about immortality, you got to go through some levels again. You have to, because there's a lot of purging that takes place in order to access that gene. But go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you.
No. I was going to go back to the money and just tie in the piece about here in North America. This is an assassination capital of the world. We are the assassination capital.
Oh, that's good. I'm tweeting that.
Of the world, and we are you know why we are a capitalist country? It's communist, socialist, and capitalist. We are capitalists not because we have to have capital as entrepreneurs, but because we capitalize. In a land full of sorrow, a person who can come in with and bring solutions is going to be rich. All the billionaires and millionaires are normally off of solving things, even the ones with disaster. People made billions of dollars off Fox News because they solved how to get bad news to people faster. People wanted bad news faster, and they figured out, it was like, you know what, I'm gonna find a way for them to get bad news faster. Now, it ain't nothing that I would have invested in, but they made a lot of money off of it. And people in this country, in where we are at three-dimensionally, let me go. Not here. Let me go down here below the heart. Three-dimensionally, we are all about getting money and capitalizing, and we will assassinate you. Don't even worry about the actual physical assassination. Look at Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, how they character assassinate one another's. As you said, They want you to vote for them due to the fact that I assassinated that other person's character so much that not that you really believe in me, but I'm the last one standing. It's almost like a game of dozens when black people played when they were young and they was talking about your mama jokes. We played the dozens, and whoever was the last one standing is the person who won. But you were a bad person too. That other person that you beat said some really true stuff about your mama. So it's the same thing that people are ignoring. We're getting lost and getting distracted by assassinations of character. Malachi York had his character assassinated by, allegedly, he had these things that happened with the children. Africa Bambaataa is right now currently under heavy fire of character assassination for child molestation, something that happened 20, 30 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So this is a country that assassinates people for gain. For gain. Like you said, who's going to be controlling the masters? Who's going to be controlling the money afterwards? Because those children that Michael Jackson supposedly left his stuff to, one, are not biologically his, and they're not
Correct.
legally in control. They're getting a salary. They're getting
Correct.
a salary. So what team of non-family members is benefiting from running Mike's thing? So let's say Mike's catalog now is worth X amount of billions. I might not get all the billions, but for running it while Mike is gone, and Mike wouldn't let me run it while I was here, I may be getting a lot of millions. I may be getting
Yes, absolutely.
a lot of millions. And that's the same thing, Steve Coakley. That's why when you said something, I was like, oh, you said follow the money. That is a Steve Coakley, the one line, follow the money to see who's going to be doing what. So I really can't do my conspiracy theory thing yet until about 6 months. Because if someone got their hand in the cookie jar to influence his untimely demise, because I think as someone who studied immortality, kept in shape, ate right, brought no harm to no man, followed the 42 laws of Ma'at, and lived the tantric lifestyle. I think he masked it as a Jehovah Witness, but he always, when Tavis Smiley asked him why he didn't vote, he said, I don't have a dog in the race. But he was telling them that I'm free. I'm free from that system. I've created my own system. So I don't need to participate in that. I have my own body of politics. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, we got some people participating in the chat. I lost one comment and don't know how to scroll up on this blab, but I think we answered the question, what are the conspiracy theorists saying? I don't know what the conspiracy theorists are saying, but we're saying he owned his masters. He just broke free, so it's no accident. What I'm saying is what happened with Michael Jackson. He owned 50% of all of Sony's artists or masters, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're saying. It's no accident. So any conspiracy theorist may be building off of that. But Miles Mona just said, I don't understand what you just meant. She said to have a family. Oh, okay. I do know what you meant. She said she wonders if this is why Janet Jackson postponed her tour. She said to have a family. Seemed a little bit off to me. There's big money involved. I don't know how to connect Janet to any of this, because I would say this. First of all, to be in Hollywood is based off of the occult people.
Because it's Hollyweird. It's Hollyweird. Really.
Totally Aleister Crowley. I mean, totally created around it. So anybody in Hollywood, in some ways, are aware, especially as long as these people we're talking about, these icon families and artists. And so, yes, they're studying many things that they cannot tell the public that they're studying, and they're practicing many things. But so my question is, when they study these things, I wonder, why don't they make preparation for themselves, like trust and, and just have ironclad, setups, so that when and if something does happen to them, that they are able to tell their own story. Because now I wonder, that's the question that comes to my mind.
Here's the thing. We don't know that they don't, and we don't know that Prince did, but I know that Prince just pulled all his stuff from Pandora, and he pulled all his stuff from Spotify. So that means some other people, maybe at Warner Brothers, is not getting some money, and they're looking at projected figures, because the big boys, they always look at projected figures. So could this been retaliation? Because it's a lot of low energy level stuff going on. Like the dude who killed Malcolm X, he wasn't at the top. He was following some instructions off of some low level. I just don't like him. Why can't
allegedly.
Allegedly.
But That Vacarage, I think that's how I say it, says, I don't know how I can go on without Prince. Well, you joined us a little late, but we're addressing that very energy of you don't know how you can go on. Even if you mean it as a joke, there are some people who are really mourning right now. And I'm not saying I'm not. This is, but how are we mourning?
I'm a big fan of his music, but I'm not mourning this much because my cousin taught me a poem when my father died. He said, "Death don't come to take; it come to set free." Well, I can't really. That's for the poor man, but what does death do for the rich man? If you want suffering of some type of disease, people were always investigating Prince. They always investigate superstars. So if he had some kind of terminal illness or some kind of prescription or whatever, that junk would be out there. These jokers, that's what TMZ don't do nothing but dig to people's trash can. So to say that me mourning, I have a different, that's what this broadcast is about. We have different views and are educated a little differently around the subject of death. How are you processing his death is how you process death, period. You know what I'm saying? What do they say, LaTanya? How you do anything is how you do everything.
It's how you do everything.
So
do you want to take this call now? This person coming in to see?
Let's see what he's got. Let's see what his question is.
Okay, we got 2 callers coming in. Okay. All right, Andrew, I'm going to get to you in a minute. Hey, Karen, you're on live.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was closing my door so my children wouldn't interrupt me. But I was listening to what you said about when you were talking about Coach, is it Kair?
Kair.
Coach
Mm-hmm.
Kair, when you were talking about death and how, because I just kind of like bumped into the blab, so I just kind of got the tail end of the last thing that he said. And what I caught was, when everybody processes death differently, and whether it's Prince or whoever it is, however way you process death is the way you process death, and I totally 100% agree with that. It's just like maybe a child who may have some type of ADHD or something like that. They don't choose where they act up at. They don't choose where their behaviors become active at. Everywhere you go, you take you with you. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter, what the location is. It doesn't matter who dies. If that's the way you grieve, that's the way you grieve. Some people are quiet. Some people are open when it comes down to hearing about any kind of death. And it don't matter who it is. It could be a family member, or it could be somebody that may have died on a job that they don't really know. That may be just the way that you process death. Some people are quiet. Some people are boisterous with it. You know what I mean? But I totally agree with what you said, Coach Kair, when you say people process death how they process death, so.
Right. But what you didn't hear that's very important is that we are offering an option, because we started this conversation off for those who consider themselves spiritual. So we started off the conversation saying consciously honoring Prince. And what does consciously honoring Prince mean? And so what we've been saying, just for those of you who are joining in now, is rather than joining in on a bandwagon driven by social media posts and news, that type of thing, there are some other options available for spiritual people to process death and not become, because it's also a program that you have to mourn. It is also a program that you have to be sad. So you get to choose how you're going to be, and you get to ask. And we've also been talking about asking some questions. So I just want to make sure you have that context, because we're kind of in the middle of it now.
and I wanted to add that not only how you do one death is how you do every death, but you do every death based off of your conditionings. You understand? Like,
I use programming, but conditioning.
programming or conditioning. Like I just started using a facial cleanser for my face, and the instructions the young lady told me to work from left to right and make these kind of circles like this, right? But I do it like this because I always wash my face. You see what I'm saying? So I don't go right hand. I got to make circles counterclockwise for exfoliation and do like that. I just do it like this right here, and that's it. So in death, we've been programmed to be to think that it's final, but in that misprogramming, we've never been educated because we respond to how we're educated. We've never been educated on truly what happens after death, because if someone has come back from death or somebody has appeared on the other side and tried to tell us about it, we label those people as quacks and don't listen to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't listen to somebody who can give you a message from the other side, because in our dogmatic religions, that's been saying that that's Satan, where we said consciousness is God awareness. There's nothing outside of what God does do, can do, has done, will do. God, so anything that's weird is of God too, because you can't make something that's outside of source energy, universal energy. The universe is continually expanding. So the universe is always expanding, and God's a supreme creator. Then God's expanding out in front of the universe. So man, with our small minds, we only use 5% of our consciousness. I'm talking about, that means from inventing hydrogen bombs to cooking omelets. Everything in between, the Tesla, whoever created Blab, whoever created a phone where I can talk to somebody on the other side of the world, they're only using 5% of their consciousness. Do you know what the other 95% of your consciousness is? It's interacting with the rest of the universe. I ain't talking
at all times. At all times. And it does not need you to know that the other 95% exists.
But
the cosmic laws don't even need you to know that they are operating at all times for it to continue to operate. And that's why we use words like conscious, because there's a part of us that is asleep. That's why we use words like awaken, because when you start to awaken that pineal gland, then you have access to more information.
Right. And it's your right to tap in to as much God as you can handle. It's your right to tap into as much God as you can handle. That's why we talked about it's different levels. There's different levels of how people are processing Prince's death. But it's showing us through social media, it's showing us a social media experiment about how fast we can get bad news to you. And see, the thing I've been on is you got two directions you can travel in your evolution. You can stay at the wall of suffering because misery loves company, or you can go to evolving your spirit and evolving your soul. And anytime that you spend over here, you have to sacrifice time over there. So for me, I used to spend all of my time at the wall of suffering, even in trying to help people. Like in church, they have missionaries. So what do the missionaries do? Visit the who? Sick and shut in. The people who are suffering. But I was programmed that was a way to get into heaven. No, the way to get into heaven is work on my spirit and develop my gifts. Latanya's I'm strong in the Bible. Latanya's one of the few people that's stronger than me. I don't know what that part is about. God gave everybody's talents, right? Remember in the Bible, he gave somebody 10, gave somebody 4, but he gave one dude 1 talent and he hid it. He said, well, you only gave me 1, so I hid it. And God was disappointed in him because God said, I need you to get away from the wall of suffering, because there's a metaphysical breakdown of this Bible. I want to let you know it's a Freemasonic, astrological, esoteric code book to how to live your life. It ain't got nothing to do with a physical person down on the cross with spikes in his arms and having 12 disciples. Just want to throw that in there. Future show coming. As a plug, right? Like it's Empire or something. But that one thing about he hid his talent. He wasn't working with the one tool he had. Shawshank Redemption. This Joker dug his way out of a prison with a spoon. Took him, what, 5, 10, 15 years? He made a little progress every day. A lot of us don't use our tools. A lot of us don't want to acquire tools to evolve our soul and our spirit, because to whom much is given, much is required. So even when somebody
absolutely
listening to what me and Latanya is saying, and they didn't come in the room like you did, Karen, and if they nodding a little bit, I'm actually talking to their subconscious and talking to their DNA. It doesn't bother me if somebody's like, I don't really get it right now, because your conscious mind can be in the way. What part of the awareness you at is different levels. So all of it may not be making sense, and that's okay, because we got time.
And I say we have to be careful what we attach ourselves to, and how we attach ourselves to it. Because, okay, it's a fact that they verified that Prince. I haven't seen the body, but it's a fact according to those who verify, right? But we have to be careful what we latch onto. I no longer post or repost certain things even on my Facebook wall, because it's like, why? Because I'm very conscious of what it is that I'm putting out there. Now, I still will say certain things that will prick the consciousness of someone, but oftentimes I know that certain people who don't want to even receive that, they won't receive it. So I know when I'm pricking the consciousness of someone, it's just an option. It's just an option. It's and I'm talking about an option like in options, in investment options, like in your portfolio, honey. I ain't even talking about options as far as this casual thing. You can invest your energy in it and get a return on your investment, or you can keep it moving. Because I'll give an example. Someone said today, a friend of mine said, told us, look at this video of the guy, the police officer who befriended the cop. You know, it's that set him up. A couple of my friends said we refuse to watch it because we understand that this idea of forgiveness is being mistaught. It's being misappropriated. I'm intentionally using some terms that can be used financially as well, because when you talk about a people that have been at the wall of suffering and experiencing lack, when you continue to attach yourself to stories like that and then repost the stories, then you now are activating universal law energy for your own self. And so my friends and I said, we're not going to attach it. Now, I can't avoid totally the whole the stream on social media with Prince, because it's everywhere and it's going to be on the news. But I can choose how I am going to respond. So that's just a quick example of how we manage our energy. Hey, Sam, welcome to our blab.
Okay, hey, this is my first one.
Oh, really?
I just discovered this, I think, 2 days ago. So this is my first time.
Wow. Karen, you're getting a poor internet signal, so come back if you want to later, but we're going to kick you out for right now, okay? Well, usually Blab will tell us when it's your very first time. So tell us, what are you hearing and what do you have to share?
About the processing. Oh, Prince's death. Guys, when I got it, like today, it was at work, and we were shooting a training video. And one of the tech persons says, "Hey guys, Prince died." I was like, "Why would you say that?" You know? And of course, everyone goes through their phone. They start looking through their phones. And at first, the first post that I saw said Prince dead, then had a question mark. So then the next I saw was from HuffPost. So I was like, okay, well, this has to be real, because I started seeing ABC, NBC. I was like, okay, so this is real. It was devastating. It was like, I think it's still a little mystery about his death, you know.
You should think that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, you have the, I grew up on this. So you have the initial feelings passed on, so you're like, feel in your heart. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes out in the next few days.
Well, I have a question, Sam. Listen to the whole question. Were you devastated because you knew him, or were you devastated because that's your normal reaction when a star that you
I would
kind
have
of
to say that because
died?
you feel like it's a part of you. You know, your upbringing kind of went away because you grew up listening to the music, you know, these stars and stuff. So there's kind of an attachment that you make there with them. So, but not to the point where I was all out on the floor crying. I was just like, wow, Prince, you know, because it seems like a lot of stars have passed on like this first half of 2016. So this is like the saddest year ever. But I guess you get to a point to where you kind of think these people they're gonna invincible, they're gonna live forever. But we know we're gonna pass on. But,
Yeah, you came in a little late. You gotta watch but go ahead.
Came in a little late. Hold on. Came in a little late because no, we don't all know that. You accept that. I don't accept that. So that's a part of what this program is about. A lot of people are processing his death due to how they have been conditioned to accept death. And that's the thing. Let's be sad and let's repeat that we all got to die one day, when both of those are really bullshit, because I don't have to be sad. There's no like law or moral training or anything that says I have to be sad. And then there's an acceptance of death now. But there's a small faction of folks who say you can live forever. Oh, yeah. Have you ever heard of an immortal?
I guess when I say like set impact, that's the point to where it's just going to devastate me beyond belief, and I'm just going to run out there and follow pieces. But it's going to, for me, if I hear someone pass, I was like, wow, that's a shock, you know? Because I was like, I just saw him in concert here in Atlanta, you know, about a week ago. So I was like, wow, he looked okay then. So it's kind of like, it makes you think, wow, it's funny. So that was the last concert, and I had never seen Prince before. So that was my first and last time seeing him. And I'm like,
you know, well, what you just highlighted is, you know, I think we're probably going to have to repeat it because people are just coming in and, you know, you went right to, well, we all got to go die sometime. That's exactly what he was just talking about. Literally, maybe 10 minutes, maybe less than that. That is our conditioning. Oh, we all got to go sometimes. And so Jair spent some time explaining immortality and the road to it and the way to it. That's one thing. We also talked about how we have this knee-jerk response to certain things. Now, my reaction of sadness was because of my conscious awareness. I knew immediately that there was something foul play about this. I knew that. That grieves me because of my understanding. So there's even an opportunity for me to surrender even that grief and that attachment for me. So I'm not saying I'm exempt, but I'm saying that there's another place for us to be able to go. And we just did this blab spontaneously, as Jair was talking about it on his Facebook Live.
We do pass on, that we live many lives, that we pass on to the next realm or wherever we're going to go. I believe that totally. So I don't think he's completely gone from this plane, but he moves on to whatever the next plane is.
Sam, let me ask you this, Sam. Since you believe that we move on from lifetime to lifetime, like this isn't our first and this isn't our last, do you believe that we can stop that cycle?
I don't believe we can. I think, as you said,
why not?
It's a full circle. It just keeps going.
Why not?
I just think it just keeps going. I think we take things and we learn things from this life. They carry over to the next life. So we take residues from this life to the next life until it just keeps going and going. I don't think we ever truly really.
So Sam, are you open to the ideal that isn't true?
Or that there's another truth available. How about that?
Explain.
Yeah, are you open to that? There's another. Are you open first? No, I'm not going to explaining it. You're not open.
I'm just getting clarification. what is the alternative?
Okay. Yes. Hold on. No. Not what is the alternative, but you first must say you must be open to that there is an alternative before you can get the what. You have to be open to be like, you know what? There could be an alternative to this. What I'm saying is my truth, but may not be reality. Somebody may come in when you see a cornerback. You look like an athlete. You watch football. You familiar with how many Heisman Trophy winners have come to the NFL and had their lunch served to them because they're in a whole new system and they had to look at things a different way than it was in college? It's the exact same way about the way that you think about death. When you think that death is something that we all do, I can't escape it, that's high schoolish. There's a college, and then there's a pro, and then there's a Hall of Fame teaching that is quite different than how a high school baller.
Okay, so do you believe that we actually die?
Yeah, if you choose, I believe that I know that death is a choice, and that people, when you accept something, you choose it. So, and when you don't accept it, then it doesn't happen. But remember, 99% of this universe is empty space. As solid as your muscles are and arms, we are still empty space. And physicists have proved that something doesn't exist until I look at it. This microphone doesn't exist. You didn't know there was a microphone over there until now you see it. It didn't exist to you. Now it came into your realm. So when I give you possibilities about living as an immortal, if a person came up to you and he was 3,000 years old, your reality would be shook. Just like as if a person came to you with an IQ that was 600. Because on planet Earth, the highest IQ is between 275 and 300. So a person with a 4-digit IQ, we sit there and say, oh no, only the geniuses is 300. But that's what I'm telling you, that's kindergarten. When we move into 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th dimensional type consciousness, we are expanding outside of person, places, and things. Okay? Because and there's a people like me and Latanya, and we keep reporting the new news, opposite of what Fox and CNN is doing. They have to work twice as hard to cover up the things that we're giving out to people, because we're talking to your DNA. Your DNA accepts what I'm saying and like, son, you see that? Ain't no accident that you just came on blabbing and you just bumped into this show right here. It's a whole bunch of stuff you could have came on and jumped on. You see what I'm saying?
And
so
go ahead.
The law of attraction is operating at all time, because your DNA doesn't have to tell your conscious mind what I'm gonna do next. If it's ready to do something, it can go and seek it out. Now, you said you're in Atlanta. Tanya's international, but I'm here in Atlanta. Isn't that a coincidence? I never get anybody on my blabs or blabs I'm co-hosting from the same city. It's always somebody all over. And now, not only are you in Atlanta, you went and saw the Prince concert. Too much of a coincidence, brother. I can't get with that.
Well, let me. Yeah, sure.
Since you said death is a choice, and we can choose if we want to die. So I'm going to ask you this: have you made up your mind whether you're going to live or you're going to die?
Yes. With a consistent study of immortality and what it takes. 10,000 people are born per year with the immortal gene. It's a gene, just like a cancer gene or a sickle cell gene. It's a trait, but if you don't develop it, then it won't develop. Just like you put your body, eat the wrong foods, don't work out. That high blood pressure gene, that trait that came down from your ancestors, you'll have high blood pressure, you'll have sugar or whatever, you have heart disease. It's where attention goes, energy flows. My attention is all the way made up. And you can ask Latanya, I'm really persistent with my ways.
When did you come to this realization that you could live forever?
May 14th. That's a short answer. May 14th.
Let me go back to something, because I said this before when we started the blab, because I changed the title, so a lot of people are coming in because they might be more approachable. But we were talking about consciously processing, Prince's death. I want to talk a little bit about that word choice, because we're using language at a vibrational level that we understand it. And so just to break that word down, there are 3 levels of choice. I teach my clients this. So this is something, all of you watching, you get this for free. There's 3 levels to choice, spiritual choice. And it's a difference from what you study in Webster's dictionary. First of all, there's 3 levels to man. And so there's also that 3 levels of choice. We are always choosing, even when we don't make a quote unquote decision. And there's a difference between a decision and a choice. And oftentimes we use the word decision when we say choice. Do you with me, Sam?
I get it.
So there is conscious choice, conscious active choice. There is unconscious choice. And then there is active superconscious choice. And that is and that those they're the levels of choice. They don't depend necessarily on. You asked another question, for instance. You asked, and before I go to what they depend on, you asked the question about, or you said something about lifetimes, the circle. We just keep repeating. So there are some people who agree with that, and they call that ancestor return, that we're just ancestors returning over again. But what we don't explore, what Khayr is talking about, is that there is, when we start to return to those full circles, there's a point when you can get the lesson and master it such that you don't have to return in this form. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, of course. I know you never returned in the exact form from which you came from. Totally different.
No. I'm saying that you don't have to return in this form at all, because in that 95% vastness that Khayr is talking about, then do you believe there are other life forms?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you met them?
Yeah. I think we met a lot, and we haven't even realized.
You met other life forms?
Yes.
Oh, tell me, from what planet?
I'm not going to say they're from a planet. They don't have to be from a planet.
But from where?
Oh, the astral plane. You ever heard of the astral plane? Okay.
Yeah, go please.
Yes.
All the time. Have you ever been there?
Okay. I got to plug in.
Okay.
Take us here. I got to plug in.
Beings, right? Oh,
Many.
Hey, we're on the same page.
Well, we not on the same page because you think that I can't be one of those. I can be one of those beings. But the astral plane is a place that you should never get stuck on. And from one of our classes, because the astral plane, such magnificent things happen. But there's something past the astral plane. So now, with this choice of me not dying, it's about studying past the astral plane. I'd rather take immortality and then turn into a beam of light when I decide to transform
like
from here. Like powder.
Well, that's what we are. We're nothing but energy. So
that's right.
We're all energy.
No. I'm talking about where there's no physical evidence that I was here. There was no skeletons. Like, I just went to a funeral, and inside the coffin there was a body that had skin on it, didn't have any breath inside, but he still had lungs, he still had a brain, his eyes, but they were closed. So there was physical evidence that he lived on this planet, and we could go dig him up and there'll be physical evidence. I'm not talking about energy transfer. I'm talking about my entire physical form, everything turning into light and leaving like a rainbow.
I don't know. I've never experienced anything like that. That's
Hold on. Let me ask you a personal question. You're not a virgin anymore, are you? But before you had sex, you hadn't experienced it, right?
It's the name virgin, correct?
But you were the product of it, so you were the evidence of something you had never experienced, right?
Not necessarily.
So how did you get here?
We don't know. We know the physical physical thing that got us here, but we don't know what we did.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking
that's
about.
what it means.
It was a sexual act between your mother and father that got you here, correct? So then sex existed before you experienced it. So you didn't have to experience sex for it to be real. See, there's a lot of people who say, I'm not going to accept that because I haven't experienced it, or the person that I'm talking to hasn't experienced it. But there's 3 ways you can know something: evidence, experience, and reason. And when you have 2 out of 3, it's a case. Look at the people like, the worst example is our court system. But when it works right, you see people are always presenting what? Evidence. And if then your alibi is strong enough, then he wasn't there. So here's evidence he wasn't there. Somebody's always trying to put evidence. So the fact that you are physically there and that you call your mother, if she got, and if you got a birth certificate, that's evidence that you passed through her womb at a hospital. And the only way that you got there, well, not the only way, but the norm way is that your father released sperm inside of her when she was ovulating, and then you were conceived. And then a few months later, you came out into the process of little Sam. You understand? But before you were in your mother's womb, before they copulated, you still existed in the etheric realm. These are the realms that I'm speaking of outside of 3 dimensions, okay? So some of these things you have to look at, and you can visit. You can go to that astral plane that you would say that you visit, and you can ask them and double check and say,
well,
give me
you're
some
not really
proof.
supposed to interact. When you're on the different planes, you're not really supposed to interact. You're just there to observe. You're there to observe, not to interact with beings. Because
Are you sure?
You don't know which beings are friend or foe. So I don't know exactly, how you do it.
But I'm trained. That's the thing. I have training that you don't have. I'm trained in how to interact with those
There
beings.
are people who actually do train on how to interact with those beings. That is the when we start talking about these levels, sometimes you need escorts. And I understand that people have gifts, but many people have gifts that they don't manage. They're not managing well.
Okay, well, you guys may have gifts, but to someone who's like a novice and they're going out there.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right.
First rule, you're there to observe, because
he's right
with beings and stuff that you don't know about just yet.
Yeah, that's correct.
So as a novice going to the gym, one of the first things you look for is a guide, a personal trainer to show you around and how to use the weights, right?
Not really.
So
it depends. It depends on what you're going for. First time I went to the gym, I did not look for a trainer at all. Was it? Because I've been playing racquetball and running track for years. So I didn't look for a trainer. I didn't look for a trainer when I first went to the gym. First thing I looked for, I was like, let's go cardio. So I grew up, with other athletes and stuff. So it's not like I had to go in and say, let me find an athlete or anything like that.
So you weren't a novice. You weren't a novice, though. I said a novice, someone who didn't
when
grow
a
up
novice
playing
comes into a gym, and I've been with a few novices, they normally will have for the treadmill or they touch any weight because they feel, let me just do the cardio. Because most of them are in there just to lose weight.
Okay, so watch this. Can you go to the? I'm gonna give it back to LaTanya. Can you go to the gym and get to Olympic athlete shape without a trainer?
No, of course, because you have to have a trainer, a nutrition. You have that drive to do that. But like I said, for most novices, you take a novice to a gym, they're not going to look for a trainer right off. They're going to treadmill.
But you can take a novice. I can take a novice to a gym and give him a personal trainer, and you not use one, and in 6 months he's going to whoop you in many of the things that you are proficient at for years and years and years. They don't have the drive
to really want to do it in their mindset. A lot of them fail. They will fail. So, I don't know if you guys go to the gym or whatever, but I've gone many times to stop, started, fail, stop, started, fail. So until you make it a lifestyle and you get your head wrapped around it, this is what you want to do, you'll do it.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely the point in terms of, well, let's bring this conversation back because you guys are going all off into a lot of analogies that are valid, but to your point, yes, absolutely, you got to want to do it, and that would be the precursor for everything that we're talking about. To even consciously process death, to see it another way, you have to want to see it another way. That's where we are. So yeah, Karen said, Coach Khayr said that if someone doesn't want to learn, they will not learn. Absolutely.
So I guess getting back to how he's processing his debt, I guess it's one of those things, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to pitch a tent in Sadville and, cry over it. It's like, it's unfortunate that he passed. And I'm like, wow, I think that would be the genuine response I would have if you pass or if he passed. I'll be like, oh man, I was just talking to these guys. That's so unfortunate and stuff. But I've never learned to like pitch a tent. I just realized, it's a fact of life. You live, you die. Those are two things that are going to be pretty much assured of if you're given life. You're going to live and you're going to die. Where you go from that, no one else has been able to come back and tell you what happened, what it's like. But, I believe you go on to different places.
You just went full circle, Sam. You just said you went right back to where you started. But okay. Thank you for joining us. We have another person calling in. I hope this is a real person, like really gonna share.
Can I ask you guys one thing like this? Like, what?
Yo, Sam, why don't you shut the fuck up?
Okay, let me ask you two guys. Like, I guess what are your phases like? I can tell you guys must be masters or doctors or something. So I don't know if I'm seeing it right, but like, what are your beliefs in? Like, is there any religious affiliation you're with, or maybe I'm using the wrong word for it, but what are you guys?
I always like to answer that question with I'm a student of truth.
Okay.
But even in that, why? Let me ask you, why do you need to box it?
Oh no, I was just because you guys seem like I have like an overwhelming wealth of knowledge about this, and so I didn't know if I said maybe these guys are professors or something like that. So I just like to know who I'm dealing with. So, but if I rubbed anyone the wrong way, that wasn't.
Oh no! I didn't give Khayr a chance to answer. There's no rub. I get the question all the time.
Okay.
The only reason why I hesitate, first of all, I'm. You can see Rev Coach is not just a moniker. I am ordained, and I'm a coach, a spiritual life coach. I'm trained by masters. I've been trained by some profound masters. I don't even need to name drop. I'm trained in metaphysics. I'm a teacher. I call myself really an educator. And I do this work, and I have studied, and I continue to study at all times. Not only have I studied, I've walked through at least 3 of the major religions. Many people study them, but they don't walk through them. And so I've also been liberated from any religiosity. And so a lot of my work is to really provide a pathway for people to be able to practice and entertain, not even really entertain, but to actually to experience spirit in a way that's very, very personal. Very personal.
Okay.
I'll stop there. But yeah.
Yeah. It's her to go as long as she wants to. That's how I feel. She's the HNI at her back.
Khayr, you want to answer we got people calling in, and can you now I'm gonna accept the other person, but I believe this one guy, people like to block him.
Can you hear me?
No, you're going in and out.
Hold on, I'm gonna come back.
Now you're here.
Sam, stay right there.
Okay, it's just you and I, Sam. He's gonna come back in. Okay, I'm gonna try to take another caller. Don't go anywhere, Sam.
Okay.
Sam, don't go
I
anywhere.
want him to be able to
I'll
answer.
join back
the question
if I can.
Okay.
So I really got like I checked the news today because I didn't know what was going on, because then I saw my Snapchat story. There was this whole thing about it, and like it's really hard because I watched the
Am I
royal
on?
wedding.
Can you hear me now?
He got married. He had a kid.
Kai, are you in our blab?
Yeah. I the thing is that he was the heir to the throne of the British Empire.
Hi, are you in the blab regarding Prince?
Like he was the heir to the throne. Like with this.
I think he's just messing with
you. Blab attracts this.
I see.
This is your first time on Blab, so you get a chance to see what is and oftentimes it's the people with no pictures, no real pictures.
Okay.
So now they've gotten sophisticated, and the guy just came in and had his face covered, and so they're called trolls on the internet. So, but we have had this happen before, where we've been doing a blab and somebody pops in and they're talking about a totally different subject, but blab is still in beta mode, so this type of thing happens.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and answer the question?
Yes, thank you very much. Sam, that was a good question, because there's nothing wrong with fact checking or source checking, because that's also a way to learn. Some people ask to learn, some people ask to debate or challenge. I really feel your energy is like, yo, where these guys, he's coming with some stuff and he's not argumentative. So where's that coming from? A lot of mine is just like LaTanya's. I'm also an ordained minister. I have walked through a lot of all the major religions. I've already done them. I've studied every religion on planet Earth, including the extraterrestrials. Okay, I rock with all of that. I'm Freemason, Rosicrucian, Illuminati, not afraid of any of that. And I'm an ex-conspiracy theorist. So I understand all of that catcher in the rye and such and such and such and such and such and such. There's three types of people. There's the window shopper. He looks at the Mercedes through the window and says, nice car. There's a person who goes in and says, let me test drive it, but he doesn't buy. Then there's a person who comes in and invests in the product. I come in and totally invest. That's the only way I'm going to know something is by jumping in and diving deep into something. So I got past my fears of diving in. I moved past the window shoppers and the test drivers, and I go all into a subject. That's the only way I'm going to understand it. Does that make any sense so far, Sam? So that's how I've reached at almost 46 years old by spending the last, since I was 21, now 25 plus years at walking it. A lot of study, but then I put more practice into it, the practical application of what are these things that I'm making my constitution, because I don't believe anything anymore. I either know or don't know. When you look at the word believe, is be lie Eve. Lie Eve. Be lying to Eve's children. So if I'm a child of Eve, I'm not going to continue to believe something. I should know. I know that this is a long sleeve shirt. It's not a belief. You understand? So there's so many ways you can look at knowing versus believing, probably a whole nother show. But I'm from the Church of What Works. I believe in magic. I am a practicing, not magician for tricks like pulling rabbits out of the hat, but I'm a practicing ritualist. I'm a person who practices rituals just like I did when I had my low beam lights on when I was going to church. Because every Sunday in church, I was practicing a ritual, but I wasn't understanding it, and I definitely wasn't in control of it. I was participating in somebody else's ritual. And then as I started to grow physically and mentally and spiritually, I decided that rituals aren't evil, just like money isn't evil and guns aren't evil. It's the person wielding it that may be good or evil. So when I met people who were very good at alchemy and rituals, and I couldn't find no dirt on them because I'm a Snoop dog. I'm just always snooping to see what I can find. I couldn't find anything, and they were still doing magic. I was like, oh, so I saw light and dark. So then the whole thing was my perception. So I started changing my perceptions, and I took off my fear glasses and just put on regular clear glasses. Because most of the time we are programmed as in the major religions, all of them. And I'm not throwing them under the bus because they're cool for as long as you could stay there. But they're still elementary school, and I don't know how tall you are, but I couldn't imagine you sitting in a third grade desk. I couldn't imagine. It would look silly. I'm too big. Right. Well, even if you were, even with your dialect, you in the third grade seemed to be too mature. You would be, offensive to the other children. They would start to make fun of you. That's what children do to adults. They make fun of them when they are on another level. So I've even been through the church of ridicule. I'm sure Tanya has. I've been through the church of ridicule where somebody ridicules me and they start to say, oh, you think that you're better than someone else. No, I guess my conclusion is I'm from the church of fruit ripening. See, all fruit don't ripen at the same time. So when you go to the store, you see a green banana, you might not eat it. You might buy it, but you know it's going to turn yellow, then it's going to be good. When you pick strawberries, you don't pick green strawberries. You only pick red strawberries. You leave the green until they ripen. These lessons that we're giving you are vine ripened lessons. They aren't for people who are yellow or green still on the vine. And it doesn't mean, but I used to be green banana. I used to be yellow strawberry. You understand?
Yeah.
But now I'm fat strawberry. Now I'm fat strawberry with a lot of wisdom. Because in the Bible, I said Solomon said he prayed for wisdom. I was like, let me get some of that. So I went looking for the thread of truth because there's a lot of bullshit in the translations. And I went to study the Hebrew, and I went to study people's character who were teaching. And then I was like, oh, he's full of it. He's full of it. Oh, he's not. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So I've learned as much from bums on the street as I have from people dropping shells in buckets, as I have from prosperity ministers. I love prosperity ministers right now. Like, I'm in love with TD Jakes. I used to hate TD Jakes. I'm in love with TD Jakes right now. Love that joker. You know what I'm saying? Reverend Ike is my boy. You can ask all my friends. I got a prosperity mixtape. Like, I love it. I used to be really mad about the Freemasons. I used to be totally confused with misinformation about these esoteric orders. And then I sat down and stopped letting everybody else run me. And I started running me, and I took control. And that's where I'm from. So that's where I'm at. Hope I answered your question.
He thoroughly answered your question. I definitely abbreviated mine. Let's close out with some solutions or some suggestions for people. One person did ask, I guess we could just wrap up with what we started with. How do you honor people when they make their transition? I don't use the word die.
Okay. How do I?
No, I wasn't. That question wasn't for you. It's for Kair. We're complete now. We're gonna close.
Since we closing and Sam's been rocking with it, I'm interested in what Sam is gonna say. He's been listening. He may have picked up something from us. I want to hear what Sam's gonna say.
So how do I honor them when they're transitioning or when they have already transitioned? Besides the funeral services and stuff, I think mainly for me what was really therapeutic, and I'll use my grandmother because I was very close to her, and she was like the first death that I've ever experienced. Not having someone be there, and I kind of knew that one day she was not going to be there, and she used to always tell me that learn how to do this because I'm not always going to be there, and you're like, okay, whatever. But it was when she started to get really, really sick, and I knew when I drove away from her home, I looked back in the rearview mirror, I was just like, I'm not going to stay for her. I don't know what hit me at that moment, but I knew that was the last time. And she passed away, and I think for me, I pretty much wrote everything out of my journal. That's how I did it. I talked out loud, everything in the journal. That's how I got through it. because, like I said, that was my world and stuff. So I was either gonna go crazy or you were gonna deal with it. So I wasn't gonna keep it bottled in because a lot of people in my family don't talk about a lot of things. So no one really wanted to talk about it. And I was just like, well, how do you handle it? What do you do? So for me, that's what I did. I just wrote it all out. That's it. And I did a lot of drawings and paintings. And then I realized one time I had to stop because there were so many pictures and paintings in reference to her. And I looked around my studio. I was like, wait a minute. This is like, you're making this into like, you got to get rid of this stuff. So after that, I stopped painting, stopped drawing any pictures. It was working, but I didn't think it was working until I looked around. I was just like, this has to stop. But the writing, I still do it from time to time. He really loved her garden, and that was her great thing. So I think every year I'll plant like one of her favorite flowers, or I'll buy it. But I don't have a green thumb, so that's first starting off, it was bad. But hey, the paintings and the drawings sold. So that was good. Yeah, I realized.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
What I'm gonna just give something very simple. I'm because this blab definitely has has evolved. It's evolved and devolved in some ways because some people are coming in the middle and are only picking up the pieces that so far that we've talked about. So let's just, I'm going to offer something that everybody can do, no matter your walk, your faith walk, your tradition, or your belief. If you are in the moment of experiencing grief, you can light a white candle, get a bowl of water, fill the bowl with some water. You have a pitcher, you can place the picture of Prince or your loved one. We lost Kair. On a table, and you can even give it fresh flowers. Kair suggested earlier on his blab that you actually set a plate that's an offering to one who's transitioned. So I'm merging the simplicity of what I'm offering with what Kair offered earlier. I just shared that you can also set a plate for the person that you are honoring. You want to tell them why they can set a plate?
Yes, because...
Bye, Sam.
Bye.
Go ahead.
Because the same thing that you need here on planet Earth for substance, you need on the other side. And one of the first things you're going to do when you transition is look for food or water. And because you're not trained in how to react to not having a physical body. So the candle is the light that you're looking for. You're looking for warmth. The water is the energy. Everything gives off this energy. In the food, there's energy as well. So this particular vortex of energy, I don't really have a simpler term is an X marks the spot. I don't know how to make it any more simpler, but you just created a magical place for that person to have relief and to have substance and nurturing, because they just got delivered into another world. So just like when you were born into this world, the first thing you needed was something to eat. You got a bottle put in your mouth. If you were in the hospital, somebody hit you with the titty, and you automatically knew what to do. You didn't have to get trained as a baby to suck on the bottle or to defecate. So sometimes when you naturally put things out for people and they just transition to that other side, they will have a natural way to react to it. This is funny, Latanya, not funny, but last week my teacher who taught me EFT, I went to North Carolina, and he said, let's get the bad stuff out the way. I have a do not resuscitate bracelet on, where he's saying that he's in such shape that if he drops and his heart stops beating, he doesn't want to be in no medication. Like legally, the people who could resuscitate him could be in trouble if they try to bring him back. So I said, well, since we're mature enough for you to tell me that, let's talk about how you're going to communicate with me when you get to the other side. And I had a conversation with him about how we are going to still commune and have a conversation, because I don't have one of those bracelets on. I have no plans on going anywhere anytime soon. And for my Bible thumpers, Genesis 6:3 says we're promised 120 years. Okay. And so Prince on his Jehovah Witness, I'm sure he knew the Bible. We were promised 120 years in Genesis. So for him to leave before he even got half of his, like, to me, I'm not just swallowing that. So, and as an occultist, we really ain't swallowing that. But I had conversations with, this is what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to put you on my altar, and you're going to be able to come here and rock out with me. I'm going to sustain you. Because his daughter doesn't believe in that, Latanya. His daughter's an attorney who makes all this money, but she doesn't have an altar set up. And when her father dies, who's going to take care of him? You understand? So I personally have taken care of many people who have passed on to the next realm through this particular process. And the benefits are amazing, because as my team grows and is strengthened, so they can do more assistance on that side, because they're not limited by a body. A lot of times this body is a hindrance. Now, if Chris comes to me in a dream and says, yo, this body was a hindrance and I want to move on to something else so I could, not be encumbered, then I'm going to be like, I probably come back to a blab and be like, Prince came to me last night and told me he don't want to be encumbered by nobody no more. But until I see that, until he come and see, like he come and tell Latanya, or if I go get my medium and see what she say, I have to wait a little bit. The jury is still out for me. But yes, food, water, a candle, a picture, and you can sing a song like Fantasia did. Fantasia, that was a ritual. When she sung Purple Rain today, that was a ritual. Go on YouTube, type in Fantasia, Paris, Fantasia, Atlanta, Purple Rain. She went in.
I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. Well, it's been an interesting blab. Trying to hinder a cough. Go ahead, Kai.
Let it out. It's your show. Don't worry. This is live broadcast, baby. I love it when you live. You understand? Like,
trust me, this hack, I wasn't even able to talk until today, really. So I'm pushing it. It's been an interesting blab. We did this spontaneously. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And if you want to know more about our work, Jair, tell them how they can get in touch with you.
Well, I want to leave something with them with this new feature that we saw too. After I tell them, so I got an interview that Prince did, a short interview with Tavis Smiley. You know what I'm saying? For me, that's honoring ancestors and processing him in the best light, that he was conscious of Godhood. He used the word, start having God talk. You can get in contact with me right here on Blab, baby. You can go to Coach Jair. You can go to blab.im/Coach Jair. You can follow my channel. You can follow me on Instagram, Coach Jair. You can catch me on my website, CoachJair.com, as well as my fan page on Facebook. And it's Jair Carter, my personal page. If you send me a request, please send me a message, because I got 500 people who don't speak. And if you don't speak, you don't get in. So please leave a message and say, I saw you on Blab. You got a big forehead, or whatever. You can say or just anything like that. Also, if you'd like to learn, or if you're interested in astrology, Coach K Astrology, CoachKAstrology.info. If you'd like to get a reading or a consultation, if you'd like to learn astrology for yourself, Keep It Simple Astrologycourse.info. That's me. It has been my pleasure to rock with Latanya. I got my hand on the play.
You can reach me Let me just jump in there and let folks know you can reach me at rebirthinternational.net, or you can find me on Facebook, Rebirth, Latanya Taylor, the Rev Coach. That's my fan page, Latanya Taylor, the Rev Coach. And I'm also going to drop a link in here. I'm doing a very special telesummit with some phenomenal women next week called the Orgasmic Abundant Woman Telesummit.
Yeah.
So I help women heal their heart so they can transform their sacred relationship with sex, love, and money. And of course, so that we can begin to manifest the lives that we deserve to have. So this blab was totally connected, but not connected to the specifics of my work. On Twitter, you'll be able to find me at Rev Coach CEO. Of course, you can see that here on Blab. And just reach out, connect with one of us. I'm sure you'll see us doing a Facebook Live. Hey, thank you, Marcia, Raphael. And join the Telesummit, ladies. If you're watching, join this Telesummit, the Orgasmic Abundant Woman Telesummit. All right, you're going to play something for us, or we're going to roll out? Can I stop the recording?
No, let the recording. We're going to see if Blab wants to. When we were test driving, it was working fine, but now I'm hitting the button and it's doing a little hesitating. So so it's very interesting. So if it doesn't work, we'll stop the recording and we'll say peace, and then we'll try to play it for those who are
still hanging around
for the after party. So let's see what happens. But thank you all for joining us, and rest in power, Prince. I'm gonna holler at you. Playing When Doves Cry. When doves cry. Bum, 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 bum. Dream, if you will, a courtyard in oceans of violets and blue.
Wait a minute now. What happened to Prince?
Oh well,
it didn't work.
It's down there in the link, but then when he didn't, let's pause. Mic is off. You got your mic muted. Your mic is muted. I can't hear you.
Good. I'm glad my mic was muted so you didn't hear that cough. That's a great note to end on. Thank you everybody for joining the 74 of you who've been watching. Hit us in our inbox. I put our links in there. Kair has links in there. See us on Facebook and other platforms. Ciao. Thank you.